The fact is, if I would have lost, the stock market would crash. And if these people that I watch in those debates ever got their hands on the United States government, 401ks, the values of your company, everything else that we talk about we're so proud of, it's down the tubes. People will lose their money. They'll lose their wealth. You'll have a crash like you've never seen before. And I'm really good at this stuff. I know what I'm talking about.
The president, trying to extort and scare people into voting for them or face economic ruin. This is not, by the way, the first time we've heard him do this. And forget the fact it's not even remotely true. Yes, the unemployment rate, it is low. Economy, it is growing. But that, many can argue, it just continues a trend that already began for the prior administration under Obama. The economy has added about 5.6 million jobs in the past 29 months. Not bad. But it added nearly 6.5 million during the last 29 months of the Obama administration. Plus, the recovery, it is not impacting everyone evenly, not close. The Federal Reserve says the bottom half of income earners have less wealth today than they did back in 1989 when you adjust for inflation. Plus, new numbers from UBS show that 40% of Americans, they're struggling to pay their bills. They call this a two-tier economy. Rick Unger, he joins us now. He's hosting the nationally syndicated radio show, The Rick Unger Show. And Rick, I know we get hit by a fire hose of this every day, but the idea that I would have lived to have seen a sitting president threatening the voter that if you don't vote for me, you're going to be on food stamps here and you're going to have to, basically get on the bread lines. It's crazy. That's just insane. Forget that it's not true. Even if it was true, it's insane.
Well, I mean, you happen to pick one of my favorite Trumpism passages, the one where he tells us we're going to see the worst stock crash in history. We're talking depression if we don't vote for him. I love that one. That was one of my favorites.
But we laugh about it, me too. But somehow this is like number 10 on the crazy meter of the comments he says. But I do ask him, because Rick, you follow this. You talk to the people in the agricultural sector with the tariffs and everything else. They've had a rough time of it. There's that old expression, people vote with their wallets. But yet when you look at poll numbers in red states that have been impacted adversely by some of the policies of this administration, they're still holding firm with the president. Do you believe that old adage doesn't hold for him? The people vote economics first, personal?
Well, you've got a few things going on here. You're absolutely right about the agriculture sector because of the trade issues that the president has moved us into. They are suffering, to be sure. We're seeing record bankruptcies of family farms. But we're also seeing it in other situations. We are seeing people, look, I mean, you've got a good economy, but that economy is not being shared as you would hope it would be shared. The 1%, the mythical or whatever you want to call the 1%, they are seeing the overwhelming benefits of a good economy. Everybody else, not so much. The middle class, not seeing a lot. They're seeing some improvement, but not a lot. And there's a reason for that. The reason is simply because wages, real wages, not nominal wages, that always throws people off. Real wages have not risen as we would ordinarily have expected them to rise when you're seeing this kind of economy. So no, you've got two economies going on here right now. Will the people in the red states stick with the president? I'm not so sure that all of the farmers will, but a lot of those people who aren't seeing the benefits, the real benefits of this economy, yeah, they very well might because they believe.
For a lot of people, they never have thought about the Fed, let alone the Fed chair. But the president raised holy heck when he said that Jerome Powell didn't know anything about economics or the economy and that he had it within his power to fire him, all because Powell had the temerity here to not lower interest rates. Well, lo and behold, Powell says, yeah, I'm going to basically do just that before end of year. Do you think it was he was going to do it all the while? Do you think he felt some political pressures? Because I can certainly make the economic argument there's no rationale right now why we ought to be doing just that.
Well, you got to love that the president says that Jerome Powell knows nothing about economics. It's almost as if the president didn't appoint him to be the Fed chief, which he did. Look, I've got a little bit of sympathy for Mr. Powell. I think that he's looking at data that is suggesting what a lot of us have been looking at for quite some time now. The economy is holding reasonably solid right now. It is slowing. That is to be expected. We've had a record period of growth, and literally a record period of growth. So I think he's looking into the future, and he's got some concerns there. I actually don't believe that Powell is knuckling under to the pressure from this president. I think he made himself very clear a few days ago, and he said, "President can fire me if he wants. I'm not leaving. I've got a 4-year appointment, and I have no intention on leaving." So there you go. I think he's doing what he thinks is right.
For those of us who would have attempted to define party ideologies before the 2016 election, I don't think we'd recognize from an economic standpoint the policies of the GOP from the last 2 generations to what we've seen in the last 2.5 years under the president. I saw a quote from Paul Ryan in a book that's about to come out where he, talking about the president, said, "I told myself I got to have a relationship with this guy to help him get his mind right, because I'm telling you, he didn't know anything about government. I wanted to scold him all the time." But Ryan pushed through the tax cuts that are soaring the deficit. The idea of the pay-go Republican, and now one that basically, whether it be tariffs, whether it be blowing up trade deals, etc., if you could, Rick, try to explain, is it more frustrating to you, the silence? Is it the omission or the commission of Republicans for what the president has done versus their party orthodoxy that's both aggravating to you and also confounding?
Well, I think it's probably more than a little bit of both. Look, we learned this week that this White House will run a $1 trillion deficit this year. That's mind-blowing. And this is a guy who ran for president saying not only that he wouldn't be running deficits, but he was going to get all of the deficits under control, all of the debt under control, $1 trillion. And all I have to do is ask a simple question, Rich. Have you heard one Republican member of Congress say a word about a deficit like that?
Rick, as always, my friend, thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
Pleasure.
All right, everybody. We got 2 anniversaries we'll tell you about on the other side of the break. One happy, the other one not. And they both involve John F. Kennedy.